everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Lunch and Learn. We're delighted to have you today. We've got a great program lined up, I think, so I hope you'll stay with us. Let me just briefly bring you up to date on what else is going on. We have a 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We'll be meeting for office hours, which is another live coaching session, and we'll be talking about some of the key points to help you accelerate your job search. I guarantee you, I think in this market, we all need to share as much information as possible. And we want to begin encouraging you to do a couple of things. If you like our material, please like us on the platform you're watching. We live stream via StreamYard to YouTube, our Guiding Your Career channel. We're on LinkedIn, and we're also on Facebook, johngself.com. So whatever platform you're using to watch us, please like us and offer comments. If you have questions, you can drop them in the chat box. I'm not sure if Facebook has it, but we will monitor it here in the studio and try to do whatever we can to be sure we get those questions answered. So that's kind of a couple of things I wanted to just get to take care of right away. So let's get focused on our topic of the day, uncovering your big wow. Now, most of you who know me, I've been talking for years about the importance of understanding your value brand statement. And some people actually work on that and do a pretty good job using it. Other people, they nod and agree, but they never really perfect it. They never invest the time to use it to get their interview off to a 100% great start. And that's what your value brand statement will do. If you start on a high note with your interview, I guarantee you the rest of it will go much better than otherwise. So what is this all about? Well, this understanding your big wow is probably an extension of the value brand statement, but in the background. So let's move forward here. One of the things when you start talking about it using a term, you find out very quickly from the younger generations, of which I am clearly not a member. And that is that, the big wow now is kind of a sarcastic term, a variant for the word, oh, wow. So it's kind of a little sarcasm. The big wow, you might write it in a chat when something really impressive happens. So that's kind of this current social use of the term. And from my perspective, the big wow, I really like this because it supports something that is extremely important today, and that's differentiation. And it is in that differentiation where we can separate put space between us and our competitors. Now, when you're in a job search, understand this. These are not your friends and companions or just silent people that you're sharing the journey with. These are people you have to beat out. This is a competition. And if you're not the best, you may not get the job. So you don't really want to think of their faces or names or anything else, but you do want to treat them very seriously as competition. And you want to be very, very certain that you are differentiating yourself with those people. And one way you can differentiate yourself is, number one, have a written plan, because 67 to 70% of all executives do not have a written career plan, even though the Harvard Business Journal research shows that those people usually accomplish their goals and make more money. Okay, so that's one way you can differentiate. Another way you can differentiate is in telling and really communicating your value in a compelling, meaningful way. Now, we do that in the value brand statements, and we really focus in the VBS on your strengths and your accomplishments in working that into an interview. But we felt like there was something missing there, and spent a lot of time talking with other people across the country and interviewing and employment managers. And sometimes they just say, what we want is more energy. We want more engagement. We don't want people to come in and just brag and gloat and act like they're the most arrogantly best person in the world. But we want people who are confident that they have the background, the experience, and those experiences, those stories in their background give them confidence, add maturity to their presentation. And so that's what we're looking for. So I thought, this is really important and something we need to add to the mix. And as Louis Brandeis said, differentiation, not uniformity, lies the path of progress, an important thing to remember. So what are the takeaways today? Well, first of all, we're going to talk about what is the big wow, and then why is it important? How do I find it? And then how do I use it? That's something that we will address today. Now, as we go forward, please, we're monitoring the chat. If you want to drop your question in the chat, it'd be great. Comments in the chat. In the past, I've had good loyal watchers that have said, "John, we can't hear you. Turn on your microphone." And I was an accomplished business developer. I worked all over the world, but at this new area of broadcast and new studio microphones and all the new accoutrements, I'm learning still. So I appreciate all the direction that I get remotely through the chat box. But please, please comment and let us know what you're thinking. Let us know how you feel we could make this better. And you do that by asking questions. So what is it? Why is it important? How do I find it? And how do I use it? Well, what is it? Well, this is not the term that the Canadian singer Avril Lavigne in her snappy 2019 "The Big Wow" song that was a really popular tune among the millennials and Gen Zs. We're not talking about Avril's great song. We're talking about getting in touch with your big wow, and that the fact that this could make a difference in how you promote and how you describe your career, how you interview, how you communicate your value. Again, we go back to the word differentiation. This is so critical. If you go in and just answer questions, you're going to be like 90% of the other people interviewing for the job. Why do you want to do that? If you're just answering questions, you are just pushing yourself back into the pack so that you can't be discovered. You have to have a compelling narrative. You have to be able to differentiate why you are better than some of the other people. And you don't say, "I'm better than everybody else." You talk about the things you've accomplished. You talk about your experiences and how they've helped you grow. You talk about some of the great things that you've accomplished that you would be surprised some of your friends don't even know. I grew up in this town. I came back after retiring from the executive search world and came back to Tyler. My wife had been a longtime resident here. I had grown up here, and we had a beautiful legacy home on Old Bullard Road for a long time. And now we live in a condo overlooking the city lake at the golf course. And it was a comfortable place to be. And so here I am I'm no longer hobnobbing around with Ron Thomas in Dubai, or my friends down in Abu Dhabi, or in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm in Tyler, Texas, teaching people how to do a better job interviewing. And it's a great environment to be here. And that's one way I sort of differentiate myself. I'm not the guy in the big city. I'm not the guy in the big firm. I'm the guy who will stay with you until you place, regardless of if you're a membership and you keep paying your membership every month, we'll stay with you. We will help you. We will talk to you every day if that's what it takes to help you succeed. If you buy our premium coaching package, even when the package completes and you've paid your fee, we stay with you. Why do we do that? Well, a lot of people, if you start taking the engagement out longer than 6 months, everybody says, "Wait a minute, are you going to make me wait that long to find a job?" But the truth is it's 6, 8 to 14 months now for a lot of executive and management jobs. And so we promise to stay with you. Even if you finished paying us, we will be there every week if that's what you need and that's what you want. Okay. So that's our big differentiation. That's one of our big wows. A lot of other consultants don't do that. We have online training, we have live training, and we also have one-on-one training, which makes us a little bit different from some other traditional outplacement firms. So we all have a lot to offer, and we're proud of that, but that's part of our differentiation. And we're constantly out there looking at what other people are doing and saying, okay, how can we do that better? How can we be creative? How can we deliver more value? And you know what? You've got ideas and opinions, so kick them back to us through the comment section. But this for you, the big wow, is what will help you motivate, what will help you, power your differentiation in the marketplace. It is the underlying energy. I think that's the best statement that I was trying to find a few minutes ago, to value your value brand statement. Your big wow, it's the ultimate hook to capture your audience's attention. You got to do that. Everybody says, "Well, no. I'm not in there. I'm not a sales guy. I'm a CEO. I'm a chief operating officer. I'm really good." Well, let me tell you, everybody's a salesperson. You may think you're not, and that'll probably cost you a good job one day. but because the old story is that 1 in 9 Americans are in sales, and so are the other eight. Because you're always trying to convince people of something, you're trying to persuade them of something, you're trying to sell them on the idea of hiring you to run the company, to advance in your career, to level up to a new position. So it is the enthusiasm, it is the power of the jet fuel, but it is also the silent fuel, because sometimes your value of your big wow, you may not talk about it, but it's there and it will fuel other elements. Now, so why is this important? This is the second point. No, as I said before, this is not about the Canadian singer Avril Lavigne's snappy pop hit. I think that it is not about that. It is about dealing with the intense competition. Now, the intense competition in management and executive ranks, this is not something that's just going to go away. I'm sorry, but there's a concept called elasticity, and Daniel Pink, who's an extraordinary kind of observer, economist of sorts, who watches various elements of the economy and business and people, and is an extraordinary writer based in Washington. He noticed that there was an elasticity emerging in 2012 and wrote about that with one company called Palantir, and they didn't have salespeople. And because sales is not anybody's job, it's everybody's job. And so they had they had great sales, but they had their whole team oriented toward being sure the customer was satisfied. And if there were glitches in their national security and police security software, they had not account representatives, but software engineers who were also salespeople, who were also software engineers, who were also troubleshooters, who were great handholders. They had them on site so they could facilitate communication, and also it helped them understand other problems that the client didn't even know they had, which is also a great way for doing add-on work. Somebody said, having an account executive handy and doing that traditional role who's sales, who understands the product, that's a great concept. It just doesn't work, said the guy from Palantir. He said, we found that having the people on the scene and everybody being responsible for sales was the best model for us. And that's just one example. You're going to see it spread out. We're going to talk about a few more things. I talked about that this morning in our newsletter in the news business. Okay, elasticity. When I was a reporter, we didn't take photographs. If there wasn't a photographer available, there wasn't any art, because we didn't have the cameras and we didn't understand the darkroom. I did. I had to learn that in college, but a lot of the reporters didn't do that, didn't have the technical ability to run the darkroom. And so if there was no photographer available, or if it was after hours, or if somebody was at another scene, then there was no picture. Now it's kind of backpack journalism. A reporter may have a video camera with his phone. He has a typewriter with his phone. He has an editing device with his phone, and he can write a script. He can take video. He can take stills and transmit this back to newsrooms without delay. And that should improve the quality of news broadcast coverage in the United States. It's not yet, but it should, and that's just one example. That's just one example of how you're having elasticity. Why is that important? Because businesses are looking for that flexibility so they can do more with less, more productivity, more services to their customers with fewer people. And that's what you're going to continue to see in the management executive ranks. We're not going to have a big recovery from the pandemic layoffs. It's going to stay where we are now, probably through the end of 2025. So when do you use this? I think that's an important thing. And here's the best argument I can make for you. Okay, when the prep time for submitting one application is 45 minutes to 90 minutes, you really need to understand your big wow so that you don't waste time with submitting proposals, or submitting resumes, or submitting cover letters that don't communicate your value. You won't get picked. You should use this when the average number of qualified applicant ranges from 150 to 400 per job at the management and executive ranks. You should use this when 7 in 10 resumes are rejected. Every 10 resumes that are submitted, 7 are generally on average rejected. You need to have that big why answered and that big why defined in your resume. You use this when many applicants submit 100 plus applications to get one or two job offers. That's hundreds of hours of labor, anxious, dealing with rejection or ghosting, and you gotta add fuel to your message, and that's in your big why. Your big wow, excuse me. And when the average time to hire is now trending 8 to 14 months, that's when you need this extra that your big wow will help you achieve. And you can't go to a gunfight with a pop gun, okay? The old joke in the police business was, how did he die? He brought a knife to a gunfight. And that was the crime humor back when I was a police reporter. But essentially, a lot of people they come in and they prepare, but they don't shoot their big gun, and then they don't get picked. I would rather you shoot your big gun and maybe overwhelm a client occasionally, and they say, "Whoa, this guy's too strong for us." That's okay. Than to hold back so that you won't be too strong and lose on 5 or 10 jobs you should have gotten. So it's really important for you to understand this whole notion of the big wow fueling your communication. Okay. So the question is, how do I find it? Where is it living? Well, you start off with an inventory or a search of your career accomplishments, your career stories. What have you done? Now, you produce, as you go through these things and you remember things that you've done in the past, you produce a catalog of your successes, the moments of praise from a CEO or a customer, a big accomplishment where you get citywide recognition or industry recognition for something you've accomplished. You look for the big wow illustrations that can reflect your strengths. This is what we're going back to with the value brand statement. You're supporting that whole concept. Now, this is not a 150 minute and done exercise. Okay, you may need help in really doing the inventory process of your background. And so my advice to you is don't be afraid to ask for help. Somebody like me who was a reporter, who was an investigative journalist, but who also taught interviewing for, more than 15 years for a national global professional association. And we understand and we know what to listen for and we know how to probe to get these great stories. I have never met someone I have never met a candidate, literally never met a candidate. They didn't have some elements of the big wow. They had a funny story, but most people have more illustrations and more power in their big wow. We have to curate it down. That's the biggest problem. But most people, they sit back. Now I can do that. I can do that. And then they go through an interview, and then you say, "Well, why didn't you talk about this?" "Oh, I forgot. I just forgot about it. I didn't have it written down." And it's like, come on, people, you got to do better than that. You cannot afford those kinds of forced errors. In 27 years, I have never met someone. I've never met somebody who is devoid of a big wow component. So how do I use it? Well, there's two levels. At the macro level, which is basically to kind of shape your message. Okay, you understand I've done all these great things in my life. I'm going to use these to shape my message, and it fuels your enthusiasm. Okay, it bolsters your confidence and it helps you engaging with an engaging tone with the hiring manager. Because when you're aware, look at all this stuff I've done. Wow, I'd forgotten about some of this stuff. I didn't realize I'd done all this great stuff. Wow, I need to start using this. Yes, you do. As I've said many times, I've interviewed, I don't know, 8 or 9,000 people. I've done the math twice. One time it was 9, one time it was over 8,000. So I've got to go back and get the final number. So I'm just going to give you a range today because I don't want to misrepresent. But I've interviewed a boatload of people in my life, in addition to all the politicians, crime guys, the cops, the judges, in my journalism career. So I've interviewed people who didn't want to tell me stuff. I've interviewed people who wanted to tell me everything. And I've interviewed people who didn't know what to tell me that would help them achieve success in their career. And that's a big problem. It is a big problem. People, they're not people didn't grow up with your parents say, yeah, brag about yourself, use all this. No, we were brought up to be more discreet. We were brought up to be more subtle. Well, that worked in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s into the 80s. But starting in the 90s and into the 2000s, when automation began entering the workforce in terms of job selection, people started getting left out of promotions. They started getting left out of advancement. They didn't have networks, and they became invisible. This is something that will help keep you charged going forward, confident and engaging, a tone with the hiring manager and each member of the interview team. And when you're going into this, you don't just shoot your best shot at one person. You keep this tone going all day long. And you can't get there and be consistent unless you've rehearsed and really been thoughtful about your preparation for the various interviews. Now, how do you use it in interviews? Well, that's when you get strategic. You use it to add impact to a signature accomplishment. Okay, that I'm very creative in my marketing strategies. Then use a couple of examples from your big wow and your value brand statement. That can really help you have an impact. You can sell yourself in an engaging manner. You need to believe in what you're saying, and you need to sell yourself in an engaging manner. Now, I've created this chart, and you can, if you'd like this slide deck, you can email me at info@johngself.com, and I'll be happy to share it with you. But here are some of my big whys over here, and I tried to squeeze it in, and I apologize because I'm always critical of people who put up slides and they go, well, holy crap, I don't have a magnifying glass. I can't see it. So what I would say is, I'm happy to share my deck with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. When I came out of the news business, I progressed up from a small daily newspaper in Tyler. I became the assistant night editor for a larger newspaper in Lubbock, Texas. And then I became an editor and a composing room editor at the Houston Post. And they had a problem with their police beat. They discovered that I had experience. I wanted off the news desk because that was right up there with being on an assembly line, except when you were in the composing room, and that was kind of fun. But I wanted off, and so they had a guy who was leaving the police beat, and they put me down there as the full-time replacement. And it was craziness. Houston was growing by 5,000 to 10,000 families a week. The crime rate was super high. It was supercharged. And there was a lot of mayhem, a lot of grisly things every day. And I wrote about that in my newsletter today, is an illustration of how the news business is changing and how elasticity in the job market is infecting the news business like it is every other industry. But so I started off, and I was, after I moved from the Houston Post, I got into public relations at Herman Hospital. And they asked me to be the first director of the Lifelike program, probably because I had all these contacts with the police department and the news guys, because I knew all the nighttime news reporters. And they said, wow, John, we can just use John's Rolex to help promote the program. And I thought that's what I was going to do. I was going to be the PR guy. And in fact, I became the operations coordinator. Now, there were great people on the team. One of the legendary Dr. James H. Red Duke Jr., Floyd Helm, who passed on several years ago, who was our chief pilot. Floyd, I forgot some of the names now. But we had John, our number 2 pilot. We had great flight nurses, all the surgical residents that flew with the program on the flights, getting extraordinary experience for trauma. Those were people that were part of the team. But I was the person who brought everybody together. I was the person who kept the team cohesive. I was the person that got the things purchased, that got the strategies to move forward. Sometimes with people yelling at me because I wasn't moving fast enough. But that was one of the things I did. And we had to come in, and we all worked together, and we had to cooperate. Then I led the business development for the aircraft company, the leasing company, for the next 14 programs in the nation, in hospitals across the country. All of those programs are still in existence. I'm extremely proud of that. All are still in existence but one. And it was probably the weak sister hospital. Unfortunately, it was a great hospital with great people running it. Alice Petrovic in Kansas City was the passion behind that. He was a former county judge in that marketplace. He passed on recently, but he was the force behind that program. But they were all great people. They were all unique people, and you had to, my strength at being able to deal with people at where they were and bring them up to where they needed to be with this program. I was able to demonstrate that again and again, and to be very creative in helping them, because I not only had to sell the program, I had to teach them how to operate it on an implementation basis. And then the operating pilots came in and took over operations of the helicopter, and then we melded that together with the hospital's operations team. So, it was a really sometimes kind of challenging environment. Sometimes people would get frustrated. Sometimes their egos would explode a little bit. But that was one of my strengths, is I had the ability to build cohesion and build consensus and negotiate very sensitive spots. I also ran the largest private EMS system in the state of Texas, and was, during my years running that organization, we were named Private Provider of the Year by the Texas Department of Health. And that was a really tumultuous time politically. There was a lot of fighting between two hospitals who was going to control that regional system. East Texas EMS currently controlled it, and they were in danger of losing the contract. And my job was to go in politically and find out what the issues were with the county commissioners and the city commissioners. Now, here's the deal. We had to save Smith County and Tyler to preserve the network, but we had 14 other city commissions and county commissioners, county judges, county attorneys, city attorneys, and then the bureaucracy in Tyler. And my job was to bring all that together. They brought in this really high-powered outside consultant who put together a really amazing system. It really didn't work in our area very well, and they had to change it later. But that was what I had to sell to the city. And I had to get everybody to agree on one contract. One contract, no changes, no revisions, nada. And I was able to get that done because I have this strength to negotiate. I have the ability to take their objections and show them the advantages, how the advantages outweigh their concerns and the changes they wanted to make. Lawyers are want to go in and change terminology, and we just couldn't, because they were all under one master contract. You couldn't do that, and so that was quite a challenge. I'd never done anything like that before. I'd worked in hospitals and dealt with a lot of egos and silos in implementing programs, but I'd never done anything like that. So that was a big wow moment for me. I really discovered that I had the ability not just to work in small groups, to work across multiple jurisdictions with large numbers of people to get a cohesive agreement and to get consensus. And then I created on my own two executive search firms. One, I had to leave after 16 years because of a dysfunctional partnership, and that was really painful to leave that. But the big wow was I could do it again. I did it the first time and built it up, and we were getting really rolling in the right direction. And then 2008 and 2009 came along, which was the great recession, and a lot of search firms were folding during that time. And there was some big dispute about how we should continue our firm going forward. And so I had to leave because I could not accept the decisions that were being made. But I started all over with virtually no money, a lot of creativity, a lot of enthusiasm. And that's part of my big wow, is my enthusiasm. Okay. I don't come into an interview and say, I am enthusiastic. It's underlying. It's the fuel that drives me. I show it. I'm enthusiastic. Just like I'm enthusiastic being a coach and doing live streams. I'm not very good at it yet, but each week I finish and I look at it and I go, okay, gosh, I can get better. Hopefully that's happening, but that's my enthusiasm, my ability to deal with multiple different people at different levels in their career in one-on-one coaching is part of my wow capability that I brought back from the Lifelight days, from the implementation days. And so all of these things are skill sets that I use, that I've developed, and that they're kind of the behind the scenes experience, the maturity, if that's a good word for me, I'm not sure, to to help people grow their careers, to convince people that they have to change. And that's really hard. And, when you're dealing with hospitals, I built the largest private, not for profit health system in the country behind Herman Hospital in Houston. And I was in charge of business development. And when I left the organization, I was senior vice president of business development. But I built it from 3 hospitals up to, there were 23 or 24 managed hospitals and a total of almost 40 shared services hospitals. And I worked with guys like Dennis Strand, who was a brilliant guy in home care, and Bill Young, who was our CEO, who was an extraordinary business developer. And so it's not just John doing these things, but I was the person who had to bring in the business. And if I didn't bring in the business, we wouldn't succeed. And I learned that I could deliver on my commitments, that I could succeed in a very competitive marketplace, and that I could work with people who were very resistant of having Herman come in and take over, because we were just managing. We weren't throwing a bunch of cash at them, but we made promises to them that we kept. Virtually all the hospitals that we managed are still in operation, save one. And that's not a bad record, given that we came in and most of those hospitals were not prepared for the new Medicare DRG program that we've been living with for a long time now. This was back in the 80s. And there was a lot of foot dragging and a lot of yelling and screaming. We don't want to change. And the people who didn't change went out of business. They lost their community asset. And rural hospitals are so very important. So that was a great mission for me, and I was able to utilize my enthusiasm when a lot of other people would say, "Why is he spending Monday through Friday chasing all over Texas, sitting in hot living rooms of board members, or eating bad barbecue in Waco or something like that?" I mean, it was just an unbelievable experience. But I was able to deal with people who absolutely had no interest in working with us, and I made most of them clients. And so this is, it was another big wow moment for me. And so that supports my ability to say, there's so many things I can do. You have your own stories. You have your own stories. I've not met people that did not have a lot of ability to really that didn't have a lot of ability, and that they had great supporting stories to help people say, "Wow, look what he did." I mean, people who did great things in military service, people who did great things in college athletics, people who did that, even though it was in college, it still talks about your ability to deliver, your ability to produce results at a critical time in a game, your ability to win when the odds were against you. All of those things are important. And people have those experiences, but they're not connected to them, and they don't fuel their confidence in how they sell their career. And that's a shame. And that's one of the things we do. I mean, we help people in our membership group and others. We help people come to deal with, these are my strengths, and I've had these great experiences. I have a friend, great guy. I won't use his name, just his first name, Peter. And Peter is an extraordinarily successful man. Very bright, Johns Hopkins history, extraordinary knowledge in mathematics and economics. But he spent the first part of his career, after he got his master's in drama, he spent the first part of his career as a producer and an actor at the New York Circle Repertory Theater, which was a legendary place for play creation in the United States, in New York. And that was one of his early starts. And so he has an extraordinary group of stories and people that he's dealt with. And, they're people across the board that I've met in my life, and people that I'm consulting with now, have incredible stories. One person said, "Oh, I've only done maybe 2 or 3 stories." And when we finished the research interview, we had about 18 stories, 18 big wow potential elements. And we had to go in and curate that down. So if you're struggling, and you say, "Well, I don't have any of that. I can't talk about that. I didn't do Life Flight. I didn't do all these other big national things. I didn't fly around the world recruiting people." Okay, you didn't do that. But you know what you did? You probably did something equally important, equally compelling in terms of who you are and the services and the value you want to bring to a new employer. And we can help you find those. and you need to find them because it differentiates you so vividly from the other people that you're competing against. And believe me, it's competition. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. It's currently 7 minutes after the hour, so we try to keep the lunch and learn at about 30 to 45 minutes. I hope you'll join us tomorrow for more live stream coaching. We have office hours at 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. It is a live stream, and you can ask your questions. I think for our members, we've already sent out an announcement on that. If you would like to learn more about our membership program, we encourage you to visit johngself.com. Click that the button on the right side of the homepage that floats up and down as you scroll, and become a member. It's only $49 a month. You do not have to sign a contract. If you're not happy with the value that you're getting, and we're improving it and clarifying it every day, then you can just drop out. It's shame on us because we didn't take care of you. But if you do become a member, you can get coaching, not $200 an hour, but $75 an hour. You can get one-on-one support, not for $200 an hour, but $75 an hour. So being a member is very valuable. You also get access to our newsletter that comes out Monday through Friday. In the mornings, we do a little commentary and a quote. And today we talked about how the job market was changing, and the post this morning really focused on that and expanded on that. And so when we get off the air here, I get off the stream, we'll be working on content for tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow morning. So that keeps me off the streets, but we try to make it interesting, and we appreciate any suggestions you can make. I really appreciate you joining us today. I hope you'll join us tomorrow at 4 p.m. Right here on YouTube at Guiding Your Career, John G. Self, on Facebook at johngself.com, and on LinkedIn. We'll be there, and we look forward to helping you. And it gives us something to do besides read all of those urgent political fundraising text messages we're getting. I never, political campaign season is kind of like Medicare enrollment season. You're inundated with robocalls and text messages trying to get you to change. So I'll be glad when all of that's over as well. Listen, you guys have been great today. I appreciate you joining us. This will be available for replay. Now, I want to tell you something that's going to be changing. And fair warning, not right away, but if you're a member, you're going to get continued access to Lunch and Learn. But we will be pulling it off the public live stream, right around the end of June or the 1st of July. And then we will be pulling off office hours later in the summer, and it will be only for our members. So become a member today. When we get a certain number of members, it's coming off. So we won't, it may happen earlier or later, but become a member today. And we'll try to provide you information. And as a member, you can set up calls, courtesy calls, and ask your questions. So I hope this is a helpful approach. And if you've got other ideas on how we can change to make it better for you, please let us know. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m., and we look forward to having a great quote that'll kind of spark some curiosity and challenge you to become a better leader tomorrow morning at 6:30 is when that releases. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.